we're going to start a little diagram, a guideline diagram up above, and make an enlarged version of it down below. So I start with my eye level, and I'm going to make it dark. I'm going to put a vanishing point here. I'm going to work in 2-point perspective, so I need both of those. And now it's just a matter of remembering your handedness. I feel just today, whatever mood I'm in, I need to go this way with my pen, and I'm doing it lightly. These are perspective guidelines, and I'm going to fit my boxes within these lines. And you need a fair number of them. And what you'll notice, what's very important to notice, is that the lines gradually become a straight line as they get closer and closer to the eye level. Now, we're not drawing above eye level. We could draw above eye level, but it's important to do that also, because there will be many occasions where you're drawing a light source and you will need to draw on the ceiling. So always include these in your drawings. Now I've got to turn this way, and this is different for everyone. You either pulling toward you, or some people find it easier just to draw straight up and down. So you'd be turning the paper in a manner that would allow you to do that. Now after you have your guidelines in, it's a matter of finding the box inside those lines. Now, if you're looking at reference, what you'd be looking at is the bottom line of the piece of furniture that you're drawing, or of the room that you're drawing, and you would follow that as your guide. You can draw in between these lines and use the vanishing point to give you something different if what you're getting is not what you're after, or if you need more information. But I'm going to draw a box. I'm going to start, I think I need one more. I don't know why, but you'll know why when you... Okay, I'm going to start down here. I'm going to put a corner. In 2-point perspective, you need to start with the corner. And I've got my guideline to go back, and I'm going to go back about this big. I have a box in my mind's eye, and I'm going to just draw it. Now I've got my guideline. So now it's telling me that at this eye level, and with this information, this is how these lines should look. And I know they're correct because this more distant view, although it is the same size as this corner, appears much smaller. And this distant view appears smaller than this part that is closer to me. So I know I'm on the right track. And to finish up, I just finish up like that. Now I'm going to put another box on top. I can firm up my lines. I'm going to put another box on top. I'm going to make it maybe just about the same size as the box on the bottom. Okay, and I don't have a line there, so I can consult my vanishing point. I think I'd like to go a little higher. I don't like the look of that, so I'll go a little higher. And now I'll drop this in. And I can see that the same thing is happening, that this appears smaller than the part that's closer to me. And it's important always to show what's going on underneath, inside the box. I need to know that. I'm going to put a little bit of a box here, so it's sitting on top, and I have guidelines here. I'm going to put that in. Okay, now I've got a box and I'm ready. I can now start on my larger version, keeping this in view. Now, I began this with the corner that's closest to me, and I'll begin this way as well. This time though, I'm going to be going very, very lightly. Now that first line sets up many things. It sets up the scale. Everything I do from now on, I'm going to relate to that known height. I know that height. So I just have to follow through, and I'll see. And also, I can keep going back to this drawing. And now I see that this is half of that. So I know that if I put this same measure above, I'll have the right height for that back part. If I go back there, if I need it, I know that I've got now the right height for the back as well. I'm going very lightly because a lot of these lines I don't want to keep. Now, next job is to get that angle. I've got to try it. So I'm going to do a phantom line because I'm not sure how to get that. So I've got to take my time and do phantom lines, and then when I'm ready, I'll hit the paper. But I'm keeping it very light. I'm going to go to this angle now so that I can compare it to that one. And it's not quite so extreme. So I'm going to do a phantom line. I think it can be a little more extreme. Okay, that feels right. It just feels like the right angle. And now I've got this height, and I'm looking at that now. I know that my lines angle less and less as they get closer to the eye level. So I know already that I'm not going to make this as angled as that. I'm going to make it a little more gentle. Okay, and keeping it very light. And I know this is less angled than that. So I got to keep that in view as I'm going this way. Now, don't forget that you can turn your paper upside down if that would help you to get these angles correctly. Now this, I'm going to even take this back because this is even less angled than that, and that's going to help me get my back. And now I'm looking at this in relation to that. So it's longer than the height, so I'm going to make a stab at that. Now at this point, if I decided I had made a mistake here and made this too long, I can correct it here. So I'm going to correct it. I'm going to make it a little less far back than I had it over there. And here I need this width. So I'm going to make it a little bit wider than it is the other way. So yeah, so that looks about right for me. Don't forget, you can cross your corners. You get more accurate corners when you cross them. Now I have to look at this and compare it to that and see what's going on there. So these two meet, you see, over here. So I've got to angle this the right way or they're not going to meet, and this is not going to look right. That's going to pop up. This is the danger zone. These are the things that haunt you. They're the ones that pop up and make things look not the way that we all see things. So see, this is outside of that, so that's helping me. There's that, so I can go outside of that a little bit, and that'll help me. And then you stop and you look to see, okay, not exactly the same. This dips down a little lower, but it looks correct. It looks like it's in perspective. And to check it, we'll draw this line in. And notice that I'm not tickling. I'm trying, I hope I'm not. I'm trying very hard to do a deliberate line, just very lightly, and following through. Okay, so now this appears higher than this, and this appears higher than that, and this appears higher than that. So the most distant view is falling in line with our plan. Now I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to bring this part, it still is quite a bit below eye level. So even though it's not quite as angled as this, there's not as big a difference as there is from here to here. So I've got to make this gentler, but not by very much. Okay, and then now again, this is all great practice in terms of aim, how you're aiming to make things happen here. your directions that you're going, you're being conscious of what you're doing. And then it's also, it's great for a whole bunch of reasons. So, and I'm looking at this again. I'm looking to see that this appears less wide than this. If it doesn't, then I'm in trouble. Now, once it hits here, I know to go straight up. I may not have been telling you that often enough, but as soon as you cross over, one perspective line crosses over another, you know to turn around and go the other way. So this crossed over, I turn around and went the other way. And you could stop there, and that in and of itself would have gone some way toward improving your hand-eye coordination and getting you free of having always to rely on these eye levels and vanishing points, because now you carry them around in your head. To take our drawing a little further, to actually build a chair from this box, the first thing to do is now to add more boxes. So I want to have some arms on here, and usually on a chair you could actually be looking at a piece of reference, a reference picture. All you have to do now is find a line between here and here that would fit, that would work for both. So here I've got an angle, and just as these angles are getting less and less angled toward the eye level, this is closer to the eye level than this line, but not as close as that. So I've got to find a happy medium, something in between. I can decide if I want a T-cushion, a cushion that forms itself around the arm. So I'm going to have one of those. So now the question to answer is, what should this line look like? It's between this angle and this angle. What should that look like? And you'll know when you see it, you'll get a feel for it. And you just remember, our ultimate goal is to be able to figure this out. Now, this is another thing that's happening here. We have a lot of lines going on, an awful lot of lines already, and there are going to be more. So this exercise, again, is going to help you to be able to close your mind and your eye from looking at all of those lines that aren't important at the moment. This is what's important at the moment. This is what's important at the moment. And the other lines are meant to be there, but just to behave themselves and not get involved in what you're doing. Just ignore them for now. You have to deal with this. Okay, now I need a line that's going to bring my arm across. Arms are the same height, so they need to behave, get along with each other. See, I needed a line between here and between here, so I had to kind of, and I'm watching to see that this space appears larger than this space, and it doesn't. So I've not done that quite right here. I've got to bring this down a little bit. And this height of this arm should appear less than this height, and it does. So that I did okay. And this now, I have to join these up. So I'm looking for this kind of line rather than this kind of line. So it's easing up. It's not as angled as this, so that's what's happening. But what's funny is that this arm looks longer than the one that's closest to us, and this is called foreshortening. As something turns toward you, you're losing less of the look of depth. It's foreshortening. It's looking shorter. So that's important as well. Now this arm is this wide, but in the distance I know it's not going to appear quite so wide. So I can already just kind of, it goes against the grain. You think an arm should have so much width, but you have to obey what you know to be true. So this exercise is a combination of two things that you know and things that you can observe in the world around you, and the things that you need to do in order for it to look correct. So there's a lot going on. So now I've got two arms, I've got my seat, and I have my back, And now I'm going to break it up and have a lovely, a nice big cushion. See, this is wrong. This should look wider. That should look narrower. So I was going the wrong way, and I've got to fit it between these two lines. I've got to get a sense of what that should look like. And now I'm going to go down here. Now, in the beginning, it might be a good idea for you to do some of these from imagination before you start working with your references, because the references will maybe have a slightly different perspective and it might throw you off. But just, even as I say, piling boxes on top of boxes is exciting enough in the beginning, I think. So you could just stop there. But why not? Why not give this a try? Now, legs, look around at legs and you'll see they quite often don't end up right at the very corner of a piece of furniture. They're set back a little bit. So we can make an X from corner to corner. Now you've got to ignore all that other stuff and just look at the base here, the base square. Now there's the middle of how it's sitting on the floor, but I want my leg to be in a little bit. So I'm going to go like this, and I'm trying to anticipate where the line, and every time I cross that X, I want to go the other way so that I'm getting a smaller square, same proportion, but inside that bigger square. And every time it crosses here, that X, I don't know how we can see that X, I don't want to go too dark, then you can see where it crosses. Now I can start to put my leg in. I'm going to just put a simple square leg, and from this point of view this has to go this way, so I can see that much of a leg. Now I'm sketching, so I have to anticipate how much bigger this one should appear than the one that's further away. So I'm already thinking, okay, I'm gonna make this a little bit wider. Does make it look a little shorter, which is strange, but that's how it would go. And here, this one is set back quite a bit, so I think that looks odd. So I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna make it not go back quite so far. And I can't see, now I could do a perspective line back here, but this is a sketch, so we'll just eyeball it. I can't see the hidden leg. Okay, so now, what about a cushion? You should have, now this, you see, you can see how much space should that cushion take up here on my chair. It can't go any further across than this, and it can't go any further across than this. So I can, let's make it, it's such a square chair, I think I'm going to try to make it quite a rounded cushion. So there, you see, it's got to come forward. It can't go as far back as that, so it's got to come forward. There, it's coming forward, and it's sitting. It's going to sit like that, and it's going to cross over. And so these are organic shapes. So there's a tendency to want to go really sketchy here, but you've got to watch and not get too there. So there's plenty of room now there, and there's our other arm. And it's very square, so you will want to round it out. So there's our curvilinear lines. We got those going, and I'm firming up my lines a little bit as well as I go along. I'm gonna round this out as well. Make that, round this out, and this, like that. See, it's below eye level, so you see the top of the chair. And this is all of a piece, so I'm going to round out here. Keep your eye on the other arm. I almost made a mistake there, but see why we kept this so light. This is cushion over arm, so I'm going to taper that a little bit. It's too wide, because this is that wide. This can't be that wide. I'm keeping my insides light. I don't want them to, see, the chair has to read as a silhouette. So you you might have to do a drawing that has to read across a boardroom. So you've got to make the silhouette of the chair read. The inside details, they're not so important at that moment. What's important is, okay, there's a chair and it's a nice big fat one and it's sitting over there in that space. So that's the information that people should get at the beginning. Now this, you can put a little bit and then show. And this can be, it's upholstered, so you can make that a little bit rounded as well. I have to be careful not to chop. There's a tendency to want to speed up and chop, but you don't. You take your time. And here. I can round that up. And now that leg being so far back, if I round that up, it doesn't seem quite so odd. I've only used my ballpoint pen. So I've only got light lines now. Now remember, we're looking for it to read as a silhouette. That's the most important thing. Oh, I've gone a little outside, but that's okay. I can put some piping or something to make that read okay. Oops. Now notice I'm not putting the inside line. I'm just sticking to the outside. The inside line can stay light. And then I'm going to accent some of these because they're important details. So I've got 3 weights of line now, or 2. I've got 2. I've got one more marker I can do, and dots are okay too. Dots are nice to add to any drawing. Just add a few little dots in. I've got my thicker pen. It's a good idea on the light side to leave it light, and then on the one side, choose up one side to be your shadow side. So I'm going to move my paper so that I can do a better job here. But I'm going to make this side my darker side. I'm using my Pentel sign pen now. And as I was saying, you never know what just now, you try not to go inside, but sometimes it's okay to just give your drawing a little extra oomph. And now that I've got that thick line on there, I'm going to go a little thicker inside too. Now it looks like I'm just jabbing at it, but I'm not. I'm trying to do it in a... Now this is still qualified as a lighter inside line, so I'm not going too heavy. So now I've got 3 weights of line. And why I'm doing that, I'm doing this one, I know why, because it's overlapping. So to overlap, it's handy to go a little bit darker. I'm going to have a little bit of a shadow here, so I'm going to put in my hatching. And hatch here as well. Here, so I'm going to put in my hatching. touch here as well. We're going to be mapping a proper cast shadow in the next video, so please just leave the area underneath your chair blank for now. We'll need to make and work from a little floor plan of the chair as well in order to get the shadow that we're looking for. Now the legs, the front leg, it's going to have a bit of a shadow here and a shadow here, but you can leave the front part. And it too is in perspective, so that shadow, so you want to be careful what you're doing there. This one would all be in shadow. There. And I'll put this whole side in shadow, so I'll maybe show a little bit of this catching light because the cushion is thick. So, and I'll put some shadow in here. So undersides, they get shadow, and then maybe there's a little thickness here too. So when I start this shadow, I can leave a bit of a line, and here as well, just let that. Now, all of those light lines underneath, they're not troubling us too much. And this is a sketch, so there is that expectation that, and I'm going to just let this belly out. Maybe this will get a little bit, well, this will be in shadow. And there's a little shadow underneath it too. But you try, for these organic things, you're choosing an organic shape for your shadow. And these I'm not keeping as straight as I should. These should look beautifully straight. They're really quite, they can really be quite beautiful. I don't think they are today, but they can be. I just want to clean this line up a little bit if I can. And there'll be a little shadow here. There's a little delay because of the height. The light is above. Most always it's above, so we can put a little shadow here as well.